Shalom, Israel, and Happy New Year to you. Yes, this is the actual real New Year. A new year doesn't start in the dead of winter, but according to Scripture, this was the time that we were uh, about to come out of Egypt, which is around March. So spring is actually the beginning of a new year, not January the 1st. Um, don't forget, those that's new to this, to like and subscribe at the end of this. I decided to do a part two to Revelation 16, an update, and what an update it is. So I took this week to do more research and to look more into what's going on over in Ukraine and to do more research on Putin, because I I often wondered, especially when they got close to the nuclear reactors in Ukraine, why and who would do something that stupid? So I took this week to find out what ticked this man off. What in the world? Because Putin is not stupid. And I'm sure there are a lot of things that they are not saying about Putin. They're just making him look like this, just like they did Hitler, look so evil. The man is just doing this just to be doing it. Well, I found out different. What I want to do is go through history, because history repeats itself. And I'm going to go back. I'm going to show a few videos and try to bring you from the past, from the time of Masada, all the way up until now, and trying to get you to get a better understanding of this brink of World War III, because we are at the brink of it, especially dealing with the bear, because Russia is considered the bear in Scripture. And they poked at this bear and poked at this bear until the bear had enough. Now, there's also something else you need to understand. Who is at the steering wheel and who is actually controlling this? Remember, I said in my last video to pay attention to the people in Ukraine. I got something to show you what's going on, and you're not seeing it in the media. Okay, and I understand that there's a lot of fake news out there, but all of it's not fake. You got to pick and choose which one you believe in, who's lying and who's not. But understand one thing: history repeats itself. And I'm seeing some things that I know for sure happened in years past. Even in war, we are treated like cockroaches. And when I say we, I'm not talking about just black people. I'm talking about the children of Israel, because the Most High spreaded us out, his chosen people, the Hebrew Israelite, among the whole world. That includes Russia and Ukraine and that area over there. I'm going to show you what's going on with them. And understand who is in control of this. You got to know who is in control of this whole thing. It all points to a particular race of people that's in total control of this. They are written of in Revelation 2 and 9. It all points back to them. You do your own research. If you don't understand what this word Jewish means, then you're not going to understand the whole concept. You just going to know what the media is telling you. You have to understand what these people are all about and their agenda. They want this world order, everybody under one banner. Okay, and what's going on with Russia and U.S.? It's like two rock walls just staring at each other. They're like two rock wallers. That's the way it is now. Two vicious dogs, and one is waiting for the other one to make a move. But one is doing things around the other to cause it to be so angry. These people here are written up. They were in Rome, and it pissed off the Messiah so bad. He told this same race of people, "You are like your father, the devil, and the lust of your father you would do." So let's get started. I want to make sure I got things in order. Let's start with Revelation 2 and 9. Revelation 2 and 9. I was surprised to find out some things that's not being told. But all of this is provoked. It's all being provoked. And they did the same thing with Hitler. In order for them, this Revelation 2 and 9, in order for these people to get a particular land during the time of Hitler, there had to be a sacrifice. Okay, these are satanic people. They are straight up satanic. There had to be a sacrifice. In World War II, 2 years after 1945, I'm sorry, 3 years, it was 1948, they got the land in Israel. But there had to be a sacrifice. Read the Balfour Act. There was an agreement made. And there had to be a sacrifice to get that land. Personally, I think Ukraine is being a country to be sacrificed. Why? Because the same people want a world order. Everybody under one unit. And there are some nations that NATO, where they are control of, are saying they don't want to let in. I'll show you. And this is what's causing a turmoil, an anger in that upper northern region called Magog, Ezekiel 38. So I want to go a little slow because I want you to understand things are not as they appear to be. Things are not as they appear to be. If you don't go to scripture and if you don't know history, the media is going to totally control your brain cells and you're not going to understand. They want that new world order, that digital world. And in order to get it, everybody has to comply. And in order to get that new world order, there has to be a sacrifice. They want the population reduced anyway. See, you're not going to hear this kind of talk in your churches or in the media. You really have to know these scriptures, talk to the Most High, and ask Him to give you the Rawak, the spirit to understand these scriptures and what's going on. There are a lot of us out there that has it. You'd be surprised. But I talk to the Most High a lot, and I try to take my time before I get into this because I don't want to speak too soon or say something and it's actually something else. I've talked to other people. I get their wisdom. The Rawak, by the way, the Rawak name is Wisdom. She's a female. I've talked to, I research, watching other videos. I make sure I try to get my facts together. But one thing I do know, there has to be a sacrifice made in order to get that new world order. They made enough people eat the bowl of grits. They got that number. So now you're starting to see that come down. something so deadly. So let's go into Revelation 2 and 9. Let's start there. Revelation 2 and 9. I know thy works and tribulation and poverty. That's telling the children of Israel, I know what you're going through. All through time, what black people have been through, not just blacks, the 12 tribes, Native American, Mexicans, all in South America, Jamaicans, Cubans. I know thy works and poverty, but thou art rich. And I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews. That's the most important verse right there. There's a race of people that's calling themselves God's chosen people, and they are lying. They are telling a bald-faced lie. You can go to Deuteronomy 28, 15, read all of that, and you will see God's chosen people went into slavery in the ghettos by the way of ships. Deuteronomy 28, 68. God's chosen people are in poverty, always have been in poverty. So these people are telling a lie. So who are they really? And who is the God they serve? Because they control the whole world, the whole banking system, trading system, stocks. They control the ships that brought us back and forth in slavery from Africa to all other countries. From Rome, Italy, all those areas where they would bring Spain. They were in control of the ships. They owned them and financed slavery. They, which say they are Jews, but are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. If you read the Talmud, not the Talmud, no, not the Talmud. There's a particular book that they go by. It'll come to me in a minute. I think it is a Talmud. It's a satanic book that they live by over in Israel. Can't think of that name. Let's go. Okay, let's go to now. Let's go to Psalms 55, 20 and 21. Psalms 55, 20 and 21. These are some evil people, man. The world is given into the hands of the wicked. Tip of my tongue. Psalms 55, 20 through 21. He hath put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him. Now, again, these are the same type of people. This is speaking of the guy that came over on the ship from England. I should have wrote it down. When they came from England and so-called founded this land. And when they got here, they found the Native Americans already here. So over time, they put their hand out. And this is some of the events that took place in past time. They put their hand out and made peace with the Native Americans, and made the Native Americans think that they came here. Christopher Columbus, he came here for just to make peace and just find a new land. He had the Native Americans thinking something entirely different. Now, pay attention to this, what I'm saying that happened in the past, because it's the very same thing that's going on now. He had put forth his hand against such as be at peace with him. He hath broken his covenant, and there was a covenant broken with Russia. There was a covenant broken. Okay, let's go back. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. You got to remember this verse, because when I bring it to our time, this fits in perfectly with what's going on over in Ukraine. There was a deal made, and the deal was broken, and the bear is acting a damn fool. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. This has happened to the Native Americans. These same people, as in Revelation 2 and 9, they are not to be trusted. Who's saying that now? That America, he does not trust. Think, people. This fits what's happening right now with Ukraine. These people control everything. All of your governments, they all are part of the Illuminati. They have new names now. You know, they have new names like NATO, UN. So they got new names, but it's the same people. Wait till I tell you about the president of Ukraine. The president of Ukraine. You'd be surprised. I hate to say this. The president of Ukraine is from the same race of people of Revelation 2 and 9. He was born in Ukraine, but he's Jewish. His father was Jewish, which makes him Jewish. Of the Jewish people. Now, Jewish is not a race. It's a religious belief. It is not a race of people. When you have ish at the end of a word, that means you want to be like the original, but you just close to it. Just like, let's see if I can find something. Here you go. This is the color blue, okay? But the sky is called bluish because it's not dark like this. It's light, but it's of this color. So it's bluish, but it's not blue. Jewish is the same thing. Jewish, they are not the real Jews, but the scriptures say they are of the synagogue of Satan. The real Jews are in the ghettos. That's the tribe of Judah. Because we are the ones that put the Messiah to death. And we getting punished heavily, and it's not going to ease up until the Messiah comes. So you can have all the Martin Luther Kings you want. We're not going to be saved. And I'm going to show you what they're doing to us in Ukraine. It's still not letting up. The Messiah is the only one that can come and give us any kind of peace. That's okay. That's Psalms 55, 20 and 21. Let me see something. Let's see if I got a connection to that. Second Ezra. I'm pointing out a certain race of people that's controlling everything. So you can understand Putin is not doing this just to be doing it. Understand who's controlling the puppet. Second address 13. Let's see if I can figure out 13. Okay, that's going into something else. That's going into something else. Okay. Just wanted to check it out. Okay, let's keep going. Let's go to Matthew 24, 1 through 8. Keep in mind who I'm trying to point out because I'm getting closer and closer to our time. Matthew 24, 1 through 8. And the Messiah went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him for to show him the buildings of the temple. This is in Jerusalem. And the Messiah said unto them, See ye not all these things? No, see ye not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. This is when Jerusalem was being threatened by the Romans. He said in 70, he said, when you see the streets surpassed with armies, flee into the mountains. So we did. A lot of people stayed. When I'm saying us, I'm talking black folks, because at this time the Messiah was not talking to the world. He was talking to the black Israelites that were in Rome. They were calling themselves Roman. Some of them didn't even know that they were an Israelite. And this is what he was teaching. So he was telling them, once they understood and he had his followers, they was asking him this question. And he was telling them that war was coming and they was going to tear up all of Jerusalem and run all of us. He said, go into the Atlas Mountains. The Atlas Mountains connected Israel going into Africa. And this is how Africa became so populated with black people. We left by the millions. The few millions that did stay, okay, the few millions that did stay in Rome, they faced slavery. They faced being bombarded in Masada. We were trapped in Masada. So what you see going on in Ukraine is nothing new. But it grabs the world attention because it's not black folks. We were trapped in Masada by King Herod and his military army, and they surrounded us for 7 years. I want to show you. Let me show you this, because I want you to know what Masada looked like. Let's see. Let me go. I gotta show this because I have a few videos, and these videos are for entertainment purposes only. Right? So I'm gonna see if I can show you Masada. Okay. You read the copyright. There you go. Here is, let me see. The image of what Masada looked like, right? There was a mountain, and that's where they trapped us. That's where they trapped us for 7 years. There are roads down there. There are roads down there that led up to where we were. There's one right there. It was coming up. And for 7 years, they trapped us. There's one right here. Okay? That was the invasion. Okay. Now that's us being trapped in Masada. Now let's keep going. Verse 3. And as he said upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately, saying, tell us, when shall these things be? Now that wouldn't happen in 70 AD, okay, which is called Jacob's trouble. Tell us, when shall these things be, and what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? So what you're about to see now, because we in that time now, what's happening is because somebody must be on their way, because things are ramping up. We went from a deadly virus. Now we're dealing with war. Something has to trigger these things in order for prophecy to pass. Prophecy has to take place. And from this point on, it's not going to be nice. Most of it's going to be death. And unless you educate yourself and understand what's going on according to prophecy, you won't be able to escape death. Now the Most High can get you through these things, but not if you worship in Cedra Bozier, because he said, come out of her, my people. You have to go back to the law, statutes, and commandments. Understand who your God is, because these people, Revelation 2 and 9, does not worship the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They are of the synagogue of Satan. I just read that to you. So Israel, those of you that don't understand you, Israel, you really, really need to wake up, because things are about to ramp up big time. Things are going to skyrocket. The cost of homes, cars, you having children, birth, marriage, everything is going up. Food. And it's going to cause people to go against each other, nations against nation. We are right in that time. That's where we are. What shall be the sign of thy coming and the end of the world? And the Messiah answered and said, take heed that no man deceive you. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. Christianity did that. The Catholicism. Christianity came out of Catholicism. All religions came out of Catholicism. Hebrew Israelite is not a religion. It is a race of people by blood that the Most High created to himself out of humanity. Deuteronomy, I think that's 6 and 7. Might be 7 and 6. Deuteronomy 7, verse 6 will prove that. For thou art a holy people unto the Lord thy God. The Lord thy God hath chosen thee to be a special people, that's the Israelites, unto himself above all people that are upon the face of the earth. Okay, now let's go back to Matthew. Verse 5, verse 6. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye not be troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. That prophecy has been fulfilled. For nations shall rise against nation. This is where we are. And kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be famine because of lack of food. If that nuclear reactor had went off, everything would have ceased because of the international trade. You can't trade from an area that's contaminated. So that will force, like America will have to rely on its own resources. So that will shoot prices sky high. And that man was that close from blowing up that nuclear reactor. There should be famines and pestilence, diseases, and earthquake in diverse places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. Didn't I just say that? All these are the beginnings of sorrows. We got a lot more to come. Even though you can say he's on his way because we at the brink of it. But before the Messiah gets here, remember they're going to have war with him in the heavens. That's why they need the one world government, everybody on one accord. So they is talking about NATO and the UN would have control of the nuclear weapons in all these major countries. We call the Big Six, which includes China and also includes the nation that's just above Russia. Let me get my map. Hell getting old, I'll tell you. Iran. That includes Iran and China with France. All these are the Big Six. India. They need control because they know scripture. They know what's coming. You are the one that don't. And that's why, most people sit there and say, why? Prophecy has to take place. You have to prepare yourself. This is why you see what they call an awakening of people saying, hey, I'm not no African American. I'm the children of this book. I'm an Israelite. I'm not no Mexican. I'm an Israelite. I'm not no Jamaican. I'm an Israelite. This Bible is a guide for us. That was the purpose of the book of Revelation. So Israel at the end time would be able to wake up. Because everything is finna go to hell in a handbasket. It's finna get effed up worldwide. Nations against nations, kingdoms against kingdoms. There shall be famine and pestilence and earthquake in diverse places. In order to have that means you have to trigger a nation to do something. There is no leader that's going to wake up out of their bed and say, let me launch this missile. Something is triggering it. And I'm showing you the race of people in Revelation 2 and 9 that's in control. So people wake up and follow what I'm saying. You don't even have to follow me, but find another camp to follow. GOCC, it doesn't matter. They know these scriptures, precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little and there a little. You got to know how to read this Bible and match different scriptures up in order to get the big picture. In order to have World War III, that's nation against nation, you're going to have to trigger somebody to do something to cause you to react. And in order to get that one world government, the population has to come down. And the whole purpose of it is because somebody's on the way. I look at things biblically. And when I explain politics, it's in the form of Bible prophecy, or else I don't want to deal with it. I try to give news according to prophecy. All these are the beginning of sorrows. That means there's more to come. Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and you shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. And America will eventually be hated because America controls UN and NATO. And once this thing gets out of hand, the world is going to start looking at America. And this Bible speaks about America, the daughter of Babylon. And eventually they are going to come against Babylon. Come out of her, my people. That's Revelation. And then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. Okay, now let's go. Oh, okay. I showed you Masada. Now, I want you to see what else is going on. The things that you're not hearing. See here, no, yeah. That was I think that's it right here. Yeah. You're gonna have to explain this to me. Because the Most High spread it.
A house or a laptop? Which one do you think is worth?
The Most High spread us out. Now Israel, or I'll just say black folks, is living in Ukraine and Russia. Now I've showed you the invasion, how they invaded Masada, how they trapped us there. Now in Ukraine, the people in Ukraine are fleeing to nations that are surrounding Ukraine. I think it's Poland, Czechoslovakia, Hungary. And the people were told to flee. Now, the black people and the black students that were in Ukraine was also told to flee. And they did. But simply because they got that Israelite blood in them. This is what happened. Fair use.
Wars do not make men great, but they do bring out the greatness in good men. War may bring out the worst in human nature, and that is what is happening in Ukraine right now. As the Ukrainian war escalates and as more Russian troops keep gaining ground, Most people are finding themselves in a precarious situation where they have to leave Ukraine for the neighboring countries, and African governments have requested neighboring Poland to host their citizens who have been living in Ukraine. But there seems to be a problem. For Africans who made the long trip from the eastern side of Ukraine, from cities like Kiev and Odessa to the Polish border, using their own resources, they are now being denied entry. They are not being seen as refugees like the rest. They are being seen as asylum seekers. Many black Africans stuck in Ukraine have reportedly been refused entry into Poland. Several people have reported that Ukrainians are the ones being accepted in many cases. Inside Ukraine, things are getting even worse. There's racism openly playing out in broad daylight. There was this particular video where Africans were being refused entry into a train taking people from Ukraine to Poland. Africans were forced to wait for all Ukrainians to go first in several trains and had to wait until the last Ukrainian had boarded trains before they would be allowed to get into one.
These are the black community. We are not allowing any black people to enter inside the gates. We are all here. It's only Ukrainians that they are allowing in. Even the ones with kids, they're not allowing them in. Many have been here for days and nobody's asking any questions. Only Ukrainian women and kids they are allowing in through these gates. All the places blocked and all are full of blacks from different communities, from different countries. Nobody's talking to us. These are the black community. We are not allowing any.
So you see, you honestly think this is fake news? Africans are Israelites too. Remember, we fled Rome and we fled into Africa. Remember, I said that. That's how we became populated. Africa became populated. So those people are Israelites. Those are our people. Those of you in America that know that you're an Israelite and not no damn African American. Those are our people. That's how we're treated. They did the Native Americans the same way. Let me try to find that one.
Black people too.
See if I can find that. Let me see. What was that? American genocide. Okay. See if I can find that one. This is what they did to the Native American. Now, when I say they, I'm still talking about Revelation 2 and 9. Still talking about Revelation 2 and 9. Let's see if this is it. Fair use. Revelation 2 and 9. Israel would always, until the Messiah comes, be treated like cockroaches. Now, that was in Ukraine. Here's the Native Americans under Christopher Columbus. Nothing has changed. Fair use. Native Americans are the tribe of Gad. They are the tribe of Gad. Mexicans are the tribe of Issachar. Native Americans. I can't show a whole lot because of YouTube's policy. So I can't show a lot of that. So let's go. Now, the reason why I'm showing you that is to show you that how the Israelites are still being treated then and now. I wanted to show, and I'm still skeptical of showing Emmett Till. I think I'm going to just talk about that one in 1955. I was going to show that one, but I don't think I will. Because Emmett Till, 14 years old, was beaten by two white males. Now, why am I bringing up Emmett Till? Because nothing happened to the two white guys that beat and tied his body to a wheel and put him in some kind of lake. And his face was disfigured. Nothing happened to him over a white woman. Nothing happened to those two guys, but to find out Eisenhower was the president. What do you think Eisenhower nationality is? Eisenhower is Jewish. It goes right back to Revelation 2 and 9. Nothing happened to the murder of Emmett Till. He's Jewish. I'm just showing you they're everywhere. Jewish people have been all over the world, controlling since the, hundreds of years ago and controlled now, and they are in preparation for the return of the Messiah. That's why they gather in this world government, and has everything to do with what's going on in Ukraine. So where did I stop? Okay, let's go to Revelation 17. Now we're finna get into our time. Now I'm gonna get more and more into Putin. So this can make sense to you. Revelation 17. This can start making sense. I just wanted to go in the past to show you nothing has changed. Revelation 17, 1 through 5. And the video. Okay.
The possibility of terrorists.
Come on. It's going to start at 10:30. See. Okay, that's good right there. All right. Revelation 17. Now we're finna get into some good stuff. And there came one of the seven angels which had the seven vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither. I will show you unto thee the judgment of the great whore. I don't know if some of you understand some of the terminologies in Revelation. That sitteth upon many water. The great whore. Water means people, controlling and ruling people. The great whore, she's called a whore because she's able to get nations to follow her policy. Who does that sound like? In everybody's nation around the world, trying to get this nation to follow their policy to put a military here, a military base here, a military base there, a military base there. And with these bases, they formed what you call the UN and NATO. That's this great whore. Okay? Follow me. Show you the judgment. See, there's going to be judgment against her. Of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters, with whom the kings of the earth, that's leaders of different nations like Russia, Germany, Romania, all the leaders of those nations are called kings in the Bible. With whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication. Fornication means, yes, they are following her policy and they getting their protection, military protection. Now we see that it's NATO, the protection you would get. That's why they're bombarding Ukraine and bombing it to death, because it doesn't have that military protection. With whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk, because we are controlled by the media. Whatever the media say, that's what we follow. So the Most High saying we're drunk because these kings take their policy to the people of their nation, and they start living under that policy of the great whore. So to the Most High, we're drunk to him with the wine of her fornication. Wine is the policies that's made up by the UN, NATO, and America. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast. Scarlet is red. Scarlet-colored beast. Scarlet is red. What race you know that's red? Now remember, there's no such thing as white. Genesis 25 would tell you the meaning of red, or who is red as far as humanity goes. Sit upon a scarlet-colored beast. So this beast means government. So there is a government being ruled by a scarlet-colored beast, or people that's really red and not white, full of names and blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. That's the European nation. The European nation. 10 horns are 10 kingdoms that surround Europe. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand. That means that's America, being treated like she's superior, okay? Being treated like she's such a superior race. And the golden cup in her hand, full of abominations, policies again, that's being written by America for that European area, which is the UN and NATO. And if you notice in this, Russia-Ukraine war, you haven't heard anything about the Middle East, that dark nation over there. Only the students, but they getting them students out of there, not the Africans. Now, I'm sure in time they eventually did get them out, but look at what they had to go through. Made damn sure they was last. Golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. I think that's it. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. Now, I want to go to this and show you what this beast is doing. Okay? So you can understand this beast. This guy's going to explain the beast. He's going to explain the beast and her policies and what her policies do to nations and how the policies create war. Okay? Started right. This is a long video, and I'm gonna have to stop it, forward it, stop it, forward it. I can't go straight through because it's too long.
Because the feeling is that this is what's going to happen. Not that long ago, we were all very optimistic, weren't we? Gorbachev, Gorby, Russians, we're going to be friends, we're going to be...
Fair use.
And in such a really short period of time, how did this happen? Why are we at the point that we are today? And I'm not saying who's to blame, because that's not a productive way of looking at things. But we should try to understand exactly what did happen. The Soviet Union, once Gorbachev took over, didn't really last very long. He came to power in March of 1985, and by December 1991, there was no more Soviet Union. Some people say it collapsed. It didn't collapse. In a place called the Belaruskaya Pushcha, which is a kind of a forest, 3 presidents, the president of Ukraine, the president of Belarus, the president of Russia proper, Mr. Yeltsin, decided to part company, decided to disband the Soviet Union. Now, each had his own reasons, definitely. But if we look at Mr. Yeltsin, his reason was very clear. He was the president of Russia, so he was number 2 to Gorbachev, because Gorbachev was president of the Soviet Union, of which Russia was part, the largest part, but only part. Get rid of the Soviet Union, and there's no president, and you get rid of Gorbachev. And that's precisely what he did. So no more Soviet Union, quickly no more Warsaw Pact, of course. That is to say, countries that were usually called Soviet satellites and part of a military alliance with the Soviet Union. That alliance disappeared. And so the United States had to figure out, how do we deal with this new entity called Russia? How do we deal with it? There's no more Soviet Union. What is going to be U.S. policy vis-a-vis this country? And of course, Yeltsin also had to think about what is going to be Russia's attitude towards the United States.
I got to move forward because it's too long.
You may remember that soon after the Soviet Union ceased to exist, in I think it was February of 1990, I think it is officially called the Bush Doctrine. That document was leaked to the New York Times, and so it became public. And what it basically said, and you can look it up, it's available, just go to Wolfowitz's doctrine and you'll find it. What it basically said was this: The United States should never again allow any other country to challenge it. The United States must remain the superior country.
The great
We should tell
whore.
our allies not to worry about developing their own weapons because we will do that for them. And we must watch out for Russia because we don't know which way it's going to go. The bear might get up on his hind legs again and growl.
See, that's the two Rockwallers.
When that document was leaked to the New York Times, it was an outcry by the more liberal, if you will. In America now, the word liberal and conservative has lost the meaning that it once upon a time had. So when I say liberal, I'm not sure that I'm saying the right word, but at least many people were upset by this document. Edward Kennedy said that it was an imperialist document that no country could or should accept. It was quickly, as it were, removed and rewritten by Mr. Cheney, not a very liberal man in any sense as far as I can remember, and the Secretary of Defense in those days, Mr. Powell.
Colin Powell.
But basically it retained that view. Russia and America must be the only superpower. And basically, that view was the one that was accepted. It was the one that was accepted. And the attitude towards Russia was pretty much, you're no longer a superpower. You are a second-rate country.
You see?
Just keep quiet.
That's what they tell him. That's what they told Russia.
This became evident and would be evident to you if you follow the policy of the United States. Now, let's begin with going back to Gorbachev.
Now, remember, policy is the wine in the Bible.
By several people, all of them quite important, to allow Germany to reunite and take down the Berlin Wall. And he was told by James Baker, and now this is not many people, I mean, when I would say this, many people would say, it's not true, it's not true. He was told by James Baker, if this happens, NATO will not move 1 inch eastward.
Now, remember that promise.
Not long ago.
That was a promise that was made.
12th, 2017.
See, that was the promise that was made. That was a deal made that NATO would not grow. They wouldn't move. You got to understand this point in order to understand why Putin did what he did. This was before Putin came in, but Putin was still part of the politics. So I want you to understand what this man is saying.
The National Defense Archives of George Washington University declassified the minutes of the Baker-Gorbachev discussion, and it's there. But it's not only Baker who said that to him. There were several people did. The German leadership did, West German at those days, and so on. And finally, I'm not saying, I don't know whether Gorbachev could have stopped Germany from reuniting, but the fact of the matter is that they said yes and took down the Berlin Wall. And NATO.
Now, I thought Ronald Reagan was the superhero in taking down that Berlin Wall. You see how they made Ronald Reagan such a powerful man? Mikhail Gorbachev, take down this wall. See, they made it look just like America went over there and did something and made Gorbachev take that wall down. See, that's the great whore. That's why it's going to be judgment against her. That was a deal made so NATO would not expand.
So, stayed put. It stayed put in those days. It stayed put under Bush Sr. It stayed put during the first 4 years of Clinton. But in the next 4 years, in 1996 approximately, a decision was taken to enlarge NATO. 3 countries: Poland, the Czech Republic, and Hungary.
Those 3 countries are the 3 countries that surrounds Ukraine. That's how those countries became a part of NATO. See, they went against the treaty that was made, and now NATO was starting to grow. So this made the bear, Russia, open its eyes and said, what is this? The treaty, y'all broken your treaty, the promise that was made with Gorbachev to take the wall down.
Now, I'm going to read something to you. You know who Thomas Friedman is? New York Times, old hand columnist. He, when this happened, this is 1998, he called up George Kennan. I don't know if you're all aware who George Kennan was, but he was one, in my opinion, perhaps one of the most brilliant minds, political minds of the United States, the second half of the 20th century, the man who devised the idea of containment of the Soviet Union rather than war against the Soviet Union, successfully did this. So, you know, a brilliant man who established the very foundation
let me
of
move
US
on.
policy.
Let me move on.
Now, what did Russia get as a result of that? First, the enlargement of NATO. So that was number one. Then the bombing of Yugoslavia that was done by NATO, and NATO is, after all, dependent mostly on the United States, let's face it, right? The UN did not condone this. So the bombing of Yugoslavia, that's
if the UN didn't condone it, that means the UN was in agreement with it. And that's why he's saying America controls NATO.
24th, 99 to June 10th, 99. Then Kosovo and recognition of Kosovo, although it had been part of Serbia for centuries. And there were people in Russia who...
He's explaining the bombing that America did to these nations behind NATO.
Said, you're letting the gin out of the bottle. Because if you do this, then there are other countries that will do the same. And Russia did the same. There's the Abkhazia to begin with, okay? Yeltsin was very angry. He made a speech. He said, and of course this is very Yeltsin-like, he said, we're not Haiti. You can't treat us like Haiti. We're a great country.
Nah, he said, we're not Haiti. Why would Yeltsin bring up a black nation like Haiti? We're a great country. See, Haiti is another Israelite country. Haiti, let me see, let me look on here. I think that Haiti are the Levites. Haiti are the Levites. When we were in the wilderness, they were the nation of people in the wilderness when we came out of Egypt that gave the laws to the rest of the Israelites, from Moses to the Levites. And the Levites, according to scripture, the Levites, they were the ones that was told not to shave their head or cut their beards and to wear a mitre on their head, which is what I got. Okay, so when he said Haiti, that's Israel. You see how all of this is going, still goes back to God's chosen people, the Hebrew Israelites. Come here. I'm trying to read my notes. Okay. Let's keep going.
We have a great past, and Russia will come back. Russia will come back. He was really, really angered. Didn't say the politically correct thing, but he spoke his mind. Then finally, the year 2000, Mr. Putin is not elected, although elected, to the presidency. And one of the first things he does is to ask for Russia to become a member of NATO.
Now, did you hear that? That's Putin asking. He's trying to get into NATO, to rule with NATO. But they're not making Putin look like that now. They're making it seem like Putin never wanted to be a part of NATO. And I thought that too until I did a better research. The minute he got in office in Russia, he asked to be a part of NATO, to rule together. But they were like two rock wallers. One didn't trust the other. At this point, they didn't trust Russia because of their past attitude when they was the United Soviet Republic, USSR. Let's go.
Why not be a member of NATO? NATO was created to defend Europe, and perhaps not only Europe, from Soviet aggression, from a country that you couldn't predict. There is no more Soviet Union, and there is no more Warsaw Pact. Why can't we create an organization where we're part of it, said Mr. Putin, and act together to protect from some kind of aggression?
You see, for some reason, they wasn't trusting Putin because of the past leaders. So because of that no trust, after all Putin tried to do, how can you blame this man after all he tried to do to be so angry like he is now? There's more.
He was told, go take a walk, basically. What about some kind of partnership or becoming part of the European Union?
Still begging. Putin still begging.
Again, and this is all documented. Everything I say, except when I say my opinion, is documented. You can look it up. And he said, no, you're too big. Your country's too big. You can't. And all the while, Russia was being reminded that it's no longer really that important a country. Now, one of the things you must keep in mind is that much like the Americans, the Russians believe that they have a mission, that their country was selected by destiny. Now, my being French, I laugh at that. I laugh both at you and at them, because we French know that we're the best, and we have no mission. That's it. But seriously speaking, that's a fact. And so the sense of losing this aura of greatness, of being told, we don't care about you. The reaction of the average Russian to that was one of, you're insulting me. You don't respect me. And so the anger gradually, and the anger focused on Gorbachev. Many, many Russians figured, you sold the country. You don't stand up to these men, to the United States. And then the same thing for Yeltsin. You'd be surprised how unpopular Gorbachev and Yeltsin are today in Russia. Maybe 5% support them. Precisely for that reason. Well, there are some others as well that have to do with economic things, but nonetheless. So now here we have Putin, who, as you know, as soon as 9/11 happens, calls up Bush Jr., W, and offers his help. And yes, and does help in Afghanistan.
Fair use.
And if you want to have your soldiers, your military people in Central Asia, right on our borders, be my guest. And in Georgia, absolutely. So it's not just words. You know, we want to fight terrorism together. And
I got to move forward.
it's nothing in exchange. So finally, in 2007, in Munich, speaking to the group of 20 in Munich, Putin says this. This is February 10th. I think it is obvious that NATO expansion does not have any relation with the modernization of the alliance itself or with ensuring security in Europe. On the contrary, it represents a serious provocation that reduces the level of mutual trust. And we have the right to ask, against whom is this expansion intended? And what happened to the assurance of our Western partners made after the dissolution of the Warsaw Pact? Where are those declarations today? No one even remembers them. But I will allow myself to remind this audience what was said. I would like to quote the speech of General Secretary Mr. Werner of Brussels on May 17, 1990. He said at the time, quote, "The fact that we are not ready to place a NATO army outside of German territory gives the Soviet Union a firm security guarantee." Where are these guarantees? And do you know what the answer was? The answer was, yes, but that was guarantees given to the Soviet Union, and you're Russia.
See how they're playing
Well,
games?
what kind of a reaction would you expect? Last year, I think it was.
You see why Putin is so pissed? This is why that man is so damn pissed off. Let me see. I might have to move forward. It's just too damn long. Just too long. 33, I think. I might have to move forward here.
The West does not trust the United States, which makes it very difficult to move away from where we are today. So that's something I want to underline. So we are now in a new arms race, which is terrible. We are in a new Cold War, which threatens all of us. The danger of an accidental nuclear exchange has grown. We no longer seem to fear that. There used to be demonstrations. You know, get rid of nuclear weapons. That's not happening.
Well, I think I can stop it there because this is real long. I can't. But now you see it from both sides. You understand. That's what and you saw how he talked about policies. All that what he talked about was Revelation 17, the great whore and her policies, and the wine made us drunk with wine. See, that's on a political level. I just read it on a biblical level. Same thing. Okay. And and I wanted to show you another one. But anyway, I'll end it right there. I'll end it there. I'm gonna go here. show. Let's see. See. Yeah. I'm gonna end this now. This is Sabbath. I really wanted you to understand that Putin didn't just wake up out of bed and say, "Hey, I'm gonna take Ukraine." Ukraine was a part of the USSR, but the man tried. From what I'm researching, but for some reason, like they say, they told him his land was too large. For some reason, they just didn't trust Putin. But after so many years of trying, and then after the incident with 9/11, you know, and then placing NATO in nations around Ukraine. So the man said, yeah, hey, you're not going to come in my house and say, we'll let your wife do this, but we're not going to let you do nothing. Or let's say you're going through a divorce, okay? You had a house before you got married. You marry somebody, and the marriage lasts, let's say, a year. This happened to Ali, Muhammad Ali, in the 60s. But I'm using a different scenario. You get married. You had material things before you met her. Married, it lasts a year or less than a year. And they come to your house and tell you, we're giving this home to your wife. You don't have no kids by her. We're giving this house to your wife. You're going to have to get out and go somewhere else. The average man, what you think he going to do to that house while he's leaving? He going to tear that MF up. So when she move in, it'll be so much damage, she'll have to sell it. I'm telling you the idea. And it's the same idea that's in Putin's mind. If you're going to come in here after all this time I tried and to get into NATO, but you're making NATO negotiations with Ukraine under this guy, Zelensky. Under Zelensky, they're making agreements with him. And he is asking to be a part of NATO. Now, it takes some years to become a member of NATO. But that particular guy is Jewish. Revelation 2 and 9. That's why I say remember that chapter. Revelation 2 and 9. Soon they got their own in Ukraine. Then NATO and them could start negotiating because the leader before Zelensky was in agreement with Russia, but not this one. So now Putin is like, you know, I got to give up my house. I might as well tear it up. And that's why I think Ukraine is being used as a sacrifice. And they knew Putin was going to go in there and tear that country up, apart. And once he started going outside of Ukraine, you are looking at World War III. They're going to have to go and get this dude. You got to deal with China, other nations that deal with that would help Russia. Because there are a lot of nations, there are a lot of NATO nations that surround Russia. But this is the information that I got, that I dug up in this past week. I'm sure it's deeper than this, but I wanted to give an update to what I did last week. I felt like there wasn't enough information, and actually it wasn't. I mean, I was pretty close, but there was more to be told. But as you see, there's more to it, and you have to understand who is controlling both sides of the fence. Revelation 2 and 9. They want the one world order. And who would be controlling the one world order? America, because it controls NATO and they control the UN. They control NATO more. See, there are a lot of Jewish people, and half of your presidents were Jewish. So it all links right back to Israel. Those that say they are Jews are not. So I'm gonna end it on that level. And they want to fight the Messiah. They want to fight him coming in. They know these scriptures because the Messiah is coming back to take us right back to our homeland, which is Jerusalem. And there's going to be so much war going on trying to prevent him from doing that. The scriptures say he's going to get us from north, south, east, and west and carry us back into our homeland. Most of you don't know that because it's not being taught, especially in your Christian churches. That's not being taught. But the Messiah is coming back to take us back to Jerusalem. I'm going to end it with this.
Hey, do you know if your phone has
This, I'm going to say shalom to you. I'm going to end it with this video.
Jerusalema ikhaya lami ilondoloze uhambe nami zungangishilana Jerusalema ikhaya lami ilondoloze uhambe nami zungangishilana dawo yami ayikholana buso wami awukholana ilondoloze zuhambe nami dawo yami ayikholana buso wami awukholana ilondoloze Zungangishilana ilondoloze zungangishilana dawo yami ayikholana buso wami awukholana ilondoloze zuhambe nami dawo yami ayikholana buso wami awukholana ilondoloze zuhambe nami Jerusalema ikhaya lami ilondoloze uhambe nami zungangishilana Jerusalema ikhaya lami ilondoloze, uhambe nami, sungangishilana, dawo yami ayikholana, buso wami awukholana, ilondoloze, uhambe nami. She